stream starting soon. Alright, I guess we are live. Alright, now. Let's see. Oh, shoot, that's not centered. Alright, transition. Alright, and let's see. Okay. So, it seems like we are going live right now. Alright. Is there anything you'd like to say off the cuff before we officially start the show?
Fuck.
That's all?
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Alright.
My friend, let's start.
Alright.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Not Moo, a South Shore, Massachusetts local podcast, bringing you only the most patrician in tunes. I'm here with my friend Cameron Francisco, known as Z the Stranger, a local artist. And I myself, just a local music fan, and as you can see from the overlay, not a dad. So
it's true. He's not lying about that.
So, this here is a brand new podcast we've been talking about, where we're going to be talking about music every Sunday at around 6 o'clock. Why we're recording this at 4:30, life stuff came in the way. But hopefully that can be changed relatively soon. So, let's kick into the meat of the show. Every week we're going to be talking about the music we listen to for maybe 40 minutes to an hour, or however long we decide to do that. We're going to kick into the live review of whatever album we choose that week. And we talk about the music news. And then we're going to discuss future releases, all that fun junk. See what's up and what's fun. And then we're going to end the show there. So, I'd like to kick off today's show with discussing a personal recent favorite of mine, Slowdive Souvlaki, as you can see right here on the display. So, Slowdive Souvlaki is a 1993 album, I believe 93, that came out right in the time that basically there was a huge kick in popularity for shoegaze rock. It was kind of like a very underground scene. It was just so interesting, so beautifully sounding. The songs Allison and Machine Gun are some of the best songs I've heard just out of the shoegaze genre as a whole. They have the right dreamy tones to them. They're just absolutely beautiful. They enchant me in a way, and I would probably listen to it 1,000 times over if I could. It's an album that if you really haven't listened to it, I extremely suggest that you take a listen, because it's just that good. I would probably like for more people to listen to it. Eventually more people will listen to it. Would they have actually a new album hopefully coming out soon? They've only got one track off of it out right now, Star Roving, which came out in early January, and they still haven't released another track yet. But I mean, they've been back together for 3 years doing a bunch of festivals, so hopefully they get to do something with their time. But we'll definitely see. Ken, would you like to talk about anything?
I have noticed that 1993 seems to be a pretty good year.
Oh, does it?
I mean that's when we got August and Everything After.
August and Everything After?
Counting Crows.
Alright, I've never really listened to Counting Crows. Do you want to tell us a little bit about them?
Round here. Counting. Well, I guess I don't really know all that much about Counting Crows specifically, but what I do know is another 1993 release. It was a debut album called Debut.
Debut?
Debut.
By who?
Björk.
Oh, by Björk. All right. And
Oh yeah, we're probably gonna have like this. There's probably just gonna be a conflict between us because like we both pronounce her name differently.
all right, I understand. Like,
um, yeah, 1993 was Björk's official first album sort of. It's weird because like she had one album that she released when she was like 11 or 12 in 1977, and it was just like a bunch of folk covers and then one instrumental original.
a wide release like cover folk album and cover album at like 11 or 12.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily what you'd consider like a folk album, but like it was just like Icelandic folk songs.
Interesting. I mean, that's really cool. I never would have expected someone like at that age to have an album out that quickly.
Yeah. And then what happened was she kind of like lost interest in like the formal way of doing music. And that was around the time that there was a punk scene that was starting to develop in Iceland, and then she became part of that with the first band that she was a part of, as far as I know, called Tapi Takaris, I believe is how it's pronounced. There are a lot of accents in the name.
Oh.
Then she was part of this
Mm-hmm. All right, I can see. That's interesting.
it's like half a house album, and this is coming from a person who's just been making all this weird rock music for like her career.
I mean, that's pretty sweet. I mean, like, I've honestly never really given Bjork a fair listen, but I mean, after hearing all of like the ringing endorsements from everybody else, I really should just check them out.
Yeah, you should. Especially like now with me here. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna probably hear about Björk a lot because like Björk is my second favorite musician ever.
All right. I'm interested. I mean, after getting through a little bit of Tom Waits this next week, I'll probably throw Bjork on too, depending on like how much I can fit into there in a week. Still gotta listen to.
For the people who like don't know me who are listening, Tom Waits is my favorite musician.
Yeah, Tom Waits is his favorite musician. I'm pretty sure that if he could, he would go to Tom Waits' house and jerk him off and just tell him how much he loves his music. I mean, am I wrong?
His wife would hate me.
I mean, it probably would.
I don't want Kathleen Brennan to hate me. That would suck.
Yeah, that probably would suck a tiny bit.
I would hate that.
But yeah, so any other album you'd like to talk about today?
Not really in particular. I mean, there is one album that I haven't listened to yet, but I am really interested in. I believe it's called Jinx, and it's by it's an old album by this group Kwarashi, I believe it's pronounced. It's just a hip hop album by this Icelandic group, which by the way, the whole Icelandic thing was completely a coincidence. I didn't realize that they were Icelandic until like I looked into them. Like so Björk has nothing to do with this. And it's just a hip hop album, and the frontman sounds like eerily like Zach De La Rocha.
All right, who is Zach De La Rocha?
Rage Against the Machine vocalist.
Okay, all right, that makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah. But like, it's like Koraj, there's this one song, Mr. Jinx, and it just sounds like if Zach De La Rocha didn't know what he was angry about. Like, the guy sounds almost as angry as Zach De La Rocha, but what he's saying, he's not like saying anything political or anything particularly angry. He just sounds angry for no particular reason.
That's honestly really funny. I mean, that's probably... That's just a really funny way to describe that band. Like,
That's what it is.
like it's... That just sounds so weird. Like, never would have expected, like, any of that.
I'll have to, like, show you that song at another point.
You definitely will. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued by the fact that it sounds like Zach De La Rocha screaming, but having no reason why he's screaming.
I don't know what we're yelling about.
Oh Lord. Oh, Lord. Anything interesting you've listened to other than a little bit of Bjork, probably?
A little bit of Bjork.
A little?
No, that's me saying that as a question to you.
All right. Yeah, so, I mean...
A little bit?
Probably a lot. All right, so you've probably finger banged Bjork metaphorically in how much you've listened to her.
I guess so.
Yes, you have.
I mean, there is oh god, one of the things that I used to be really into when I was like in middle school and then going into high school and everything was this one record label called Strange Music, which honestly right now, like, I'm not a fan of them now. But there's this one duo that's on Strange Music called Cess Crew that released an album this year. Excuse me, and I've listened to that record because out of everyone on Strange Music, I still have a soft spot for Cess Crew. So, I listened to that album. It was really interesting because a lot of the instrumentals sounded like your typical like trap instrumentals, but it was like you had these two technical rappers over them, so it was just an interesting thing to hear, and like I don't know, I guess it kind of like I don't know, it was a satisfying listen, as tough as it is to describe apparently.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying. It sounds pretty interesting for what it is. I mean, like, everyone has their little guilty pleasures, and like, I don't know, I guess it'd be kind of interesting to check it out at some point. I mean, you always gotta have something you like on a record label you hate, I guess.
True.
I mean, if you don't look at the positives, you kind of just see all the negatives, and it really just makes for a negative outlook entirely.
But like, any of the negative outlooks that people have towards Strange Music are generally like understood.
Yeah. I mean, with like, what have they else? What else have they been like publishing? Because I mean, I'm trying to get like a feel for what turned everybody off.
You ever heard of Tech Nine?
Yes.
Like, imagine an entire record label sucking his dick.
That sounds extremely boring.
That's what Strange Music is.
Alright, that makes a lot more sense now.
It's so weird, because, like, if you go through, like, any of the albums on Strange Music, they always, for one thing, they always have one feature from Tech Nine, and I think that's because they're, like, it's, like, required. I have a theory that anybody who's on Strange Music is required by contract to feature Tech Nine on at least once on their album.
And what would Tech Nine do? Just rap, or would he produce thing?
No, he would just rap, and like, and Tech Nine himself, Tech Nine is an odd situation because he's obviously like, he's obviously very good at rapping technically, and he has the whole speed thing down, but it's been a while since I've actually been interested in anything he had to say.
Because
pretty much every song that he's ever released, for the most part, has always boiled down to I get my dick sucked a lot. And here's the thing. All right, there's one Tech-9 song called The Noose, which is him and another band that's on the label called Mayday, which is I think Mayday is pretty good as well. I just haven't really, brought myself back to them like I did with Seskrew. So the whole song is like, so the Mayday has two vocalists. Both of them are rappers. The first guy is just kind of generally like pissed off at things, and I'm hanging up the noose now. It's not necessarily a happy song. And then the other guy is like in the same situation, and then you have Tech-9 like right in the middle of the song, and like he's mainly focusing on talking about like soldiers and how their plight is horrible, and then he randomly decided to throw in a line in that song about him getting sucked off. Like, for some reason, this is his obsession.
That's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known people who like Tech-9 for whatever reason. I mean, I guess he's a good producer to them or something like that. I mean...
Well, I mean, if he even were a producer.
I guess. I mean, I don't know what their love is for him. I mean, like, I've seen his stuff around and I'm just intrigued by the desire for Tech-9, but it's like... Why don't you just put on Aphex Twin and like not bother with any of that bullshit?
And you know what sucks especially is that I can tell that there are people on the label, on Strange Music, that have interesting ideas for what they're doing with their music, and they are talented. There's this one other guy who's like kind of like a sidekick to Tech-9 named Chris Calico. And for one thing, he's a rapper and a singer, and he can sing. And the way that he raps is pretty interesting as well. and the thing is, while Chris Calico is also kind of a little bit obsessed with getting his dick sucked, like he brings up that kind of thing like a lot. It's not as annoying because he knows when to shut up. He knows when to shut up about it. He has his songs about his struggles, and he focuses. He knows what he's doing, and he doesn't like require all of his label mates, like all of the people on his record label, to have him on a feature.
That's awesome.
Chris Calico is just a good guy.
All right, that's neat. That's neat. I mean, like, oh shit. So, all right. Anything else you'd be interested in talking about this week?
Not really in particular.
Alrighty, I guess I'll just get on to another album that I've been listening to this past week. Let's see. So, I actually got to check out, let's see, this interesting Bandcamp album. You ever hear of Namesh?
No.
Alright, well, he's kind of like an electronic producer. He made this album, Web Timeout. Now, it's an interesting little piece. It's not like an actual album, but it's more of like taking all of like the sounds that you'd hear in, like, say, when a Windows XP computer is having a lot of issues or it's being attacked by a virus, interspliced with like tech support calls or pre-recorded tech support messages on those crappy websites where they try to offer tech support but give you like malware and shit.
That's an interesting thing.
It's interesting. I was listening to it and it was just, wait, what is this that I'm listening to? what? And every time I hear like this lo-fi bashing noise, like someone slamming a door open, I felt myself jump a tiny bit because it's like, oh wait, holy shit, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And it was like it was so jarring because I felt like I was back in like 2007ish, when I accidentally got a virus on my parents' computer, and I had to sit through all of the problems of trying to get that out of the way. It was unsettling, but an interesting experimental project. Like the album all has song titles about like the different error codes that developers would be given when they're programming, all of the stuff that they'd have to deal with. There are even like just error codes that you'd see around, like generic ones like error 404, page not found, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, let me look at it and see if I can pull it up here in the mesh.
It definitely sounds interesting.
Let's see the mesh. Bandcamp. Alright. On his Bandcamp. Where is it? This guy's actually done a bunch of other stuff. Like, he has a whole album dedicated to a video game mix of tracks from the Sonic the original Sonic soundtrack.
Right.
But they're all like 10 to like 30 minutes long. Not even 10. Like the shortest one's like 14 minutes. But like, oh no, not even 30 minutes. But like the last song right here is like 44 minutes, and that is nuts. So where is that album? It's got to be somewhere on here. No, I can't find it. It might actually have been like a really much older album that he released like a little while ago. If I could only find his... Oh, here's his discography. I can't navigate this for shit. It's Web Timeout, EP, and then that. Let's see. Does it say when this came out? Oh, 2016. So it came out like not even 6 months ago. So it's an interesting little bit. It's got... The tracks on the album are relatively short. They're paced by this kind of very low blipping sound. There's a very, very faint bump of the bass.
Right.
It's like almost like a bassy tick at the same time. And again, very interesting if you're ever looking for something like just really weird to veg out to and get scared by every now and then, because it's like, oh shit, I'm getting war flashbacks. I'd say Nemesh's Web Timeout is something you should definitely be checking out.
All right. I believe I may do that then.
You definitely should. And actually, let me talk about Tom Waits' Rain Dogs real quick.
Oh.
Okay, so I was listening to it, and I was like, that is an interesting sound. Alright, where's he gonna go with it? And just listening to it throughout the entire album, I was just like, wow, this is so cool. Tom Waits, you've intrigued me, my friend. Like, you've gotten this really interesting bluesy sound, but like a folksy backing to, which that's the one thing I enjoy about folk music, like the kind of relaxed backing music.
Yeah. And
he ended up like taking this folky music that's like kind of nice to relax to, and then kind of adding the crooning that harkens back to the old days of blues, and like gives this sense of like, where am I? Am I even in my right time period? The songs that he was singing, it sounded like he was singing about, I don't know, an outlaw maybe? Do you know if he was singing about like some specific topic, or if he was just kind of creating like a concept about a time period?
Well, the whole concept of Rain Dogs is it's mainly like New York at the time. Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea of it. But there are different concepts for each song. It's not a concept album. So like Cemetery Polka is an interesting one, because what happened was the whole idea of Cemetery Polka was that he was thinking of his distant relatives, and like he all the people that he lists out in Cemetery Polka are like his actual relatives, and he essentially like overheard, like during family reunion things, he overheard people talking about other people and just like wrote that into a song, and it became Cemetery Polka.
Alright, so I can see that. It's kind of like taking the stories of dead loved ones or just dead friends and whatnot and kind of transforming it into a song itself.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Are there other songs that are kind of composed similarly to that?
Well, not particular. There are other songs on the album that do have a similar sound musically to Cemetery Polka, Singapore, Diamonds and Gold,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even Clap Hands. But lyrically, like, Cemetery Polka is a bit of a standalone because a majority of the album is taking that concept of what, just New York and trying to get that feeling across of, like, what New York is like or was like at the time, since he was living there at the time that he wrote the album.
Well, that's pretty neat. I mean, I can definitely see it in, like, all the different little songs I listened to. Like, one really standout track was Downtown Train. His crooning on that track really kind of, it had a really kind of, I don't want to say harsh sense to it, but it had like a little bit of a soothing sound to it as well. I don't know. I could feel like throughout the entire album what he was getting, like the atmosphere he was portraying. It felt really interesting, honestly.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like a thing with Tom Waits is that he's able to, like, he's able to take he's able to do this crooning when he sounds like a primate.
Really? I mean, does he not, when he talks, does he sound like really ugly or something?
No, I'm talking about the way he sings.
Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah, he's able to sound the way that he does, but he'll make songs like Time, he'll make songs like Downtown, he'll make Hang Down Your Head, he'll make those kinds of songs, and he'll make them work despite the fact that he sounds like that. And here's the thing, like, if you go into, like, later albums or even like some of the previous albums that he has, you get that even more. It's a very strange phenomenon that he's able to put together in order to create that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I remember when I went right into the album, I heard it and I was like, this is not the voice I expected at all. I mean, especially when you showed me that one song. What was that one song of Tom Waits that you showed me back when I hung out with you last weekend? Was that one very out there song? I think it was from like a recent album.
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, it was Dog Door.
Yeah, Dog Door. Like, I heard that and I was like, okay, I'm really primed for someone who's like kind of out there, kind of not just generic folk, like, and I'm glad to see that was fulfilled.
Yeah.
When I heard like him on Rain Dogs, like I was really, really hoping to hear something new. Well, not really new, as the album came out in '85, but hear something interesting and something that would really kind of trigger an interesting response. Tom Waits' singing style, Tom Waits' like composing style, it created a really interesting album, and that's something I want to return to, just to kind of like get a stronger analysis of it if I have the time for it.
And I mean, since you enjoyed Rain Dogs, I recommend you check out the previous album, Swordfish Trombones.
Swordfish Trombones?
Yes.
Alright, I'll definitely add that there. Yeah, so here we go. Swordfish Trombones. No, alright. So any other albums you'd like to see? Actually, let's cut the music discussion a tiny bit short, and let's get right to Justin's album, because that's something I'd really like to just sink my teeth into, kind of get my words out there.
Yeah. So, the Justin Arena Project, The Pink Room, the latest record from the Justin Arena Project, who is probably the most well-known and most successful of the local musicians in our area. For a little background, Justin Arena started off with his first solo release was it was entitled Looking Back, and there were 10 songs, and only like 2 or 3 of the tracks on Looking Back really caught on, as far as I can tell, because I know that the track Anarchy in My Bedroom was in it, like, a huge thing for him, and he would play it live almost every time he performed. But then there were also songs like Fade that were pretty out there. You know, people really enjoyed Fade, and I believe Nobody Knows was a pretty popular one as well. I'm not entirely sure. I just know about Anarchy in My Bedroom and Fade.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, what happened was he moved on. He tried to form a band entitled the Justin Arena Project. and at this point, he released the album Be Nice to the Quiet Kid or He Will Burn Your House Down, which is probably his least successful release. Not really counting his split EPs that he's put out. Just talking about the solo albums, probably his least successful would be Be Nice to the Quiet Kid or You'll Burn Your House Down.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I don't even think that there are really any. Maybe the Pizza Rap, I guess, would be like the one song that like people really like remember from that album.
Yeah, I mean the Pizza Rap is just, it's such a meme that we can kind of like remember it as that and keep that. That's like the one thing. A lot of people like to remember like a lot of the fun stuff that people do, but the artists kind of tend to like stray away from that fun stuff because they want to be serious. Understandable, but I think like there's room for the hilarity, the room for like the silliness.
You know, I feel like that's something that's been consistent with what Justin Arena's released, because on Looking Back, probably his most popular song was Anarchy in My Bedroom. And then on Be Nice to the Quiet Kid, it's the Pizza Rap. And then on his next release, which was pretty successful when it came out, one of, if not the most successful of the songs, although the most successful on Easy January was probably Illuminated. But up there was Scarecrow. And Anarchy in My Bedroom, Pizza Rap, Scarecrow, they're all a lot more energized than the rest of the albums that they're on. And honestly, the same can probably... No, I don't know if the same can be said for the Pink Room. Because the consistent thing is that there's always one song on each of the albums that's like that, and then the rest of them, not so much. You know, Scarecrow is a standalone on Easy January, Pizza Rap on Be Nice to the Quiet Kid, Anarchy in My Bedroom on Looking Back, and for the Pink Room, it's Lungs.
Yeah, Lungs. That was the one where it's like I could actually feel myself kind of like, hey, I'm jumping up. I could actually move to this. If you played it at a show, got like Nathan and everyone else to sing along to those little choir bits, like we would have a good old grand old time. Like whenever he sings about like having 3 nipples or having anarchy in his bedroom.
Yeah. But honestly, when like compared to some of the other releases, when it comes to this, I think like this album was definitely not intended for that. Probably like less than any other. Like Easy January, I'm sure could have afforded to have some more energized tracks along with the other 2 albums, but the Pink Room was definitely a special album because of the fact that it's absolutely not like that at all. In fact, a majority of the album is not happy.
Yeah. I mean, with like the whole lyrical theme of the album being his personal issues throughout the last year. I don't really want to go into detail here because it's not my room to like discuss about. And probably, but he's kind of poured his entire emotional spectrum from the last year into this album, and all of like the internal conflicts, all of the external conflicts he's dealt with. I mean, the dude's graduated high school. He graduated high school last year, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I mean, like, add that on top of all the personal stuff he was dealing with. Like, this was an album dedicated to like his process of growing up, his process of dealing with everything, his movement in the world, and kind of an existential look at the world itself. Like, how will he deal with his progression in life? How will he deal with all of the people problems, all of helping people, all of his future music? Like, it was all an introspective, an extrospective, if that's even a word. But it.
And the thing is, for a lot of the album, it's not necessarily so much him asking those questions, but him saying that there's a lyrical motif throughout the album, where he says on multiple songs in different ways, that he's holding on to hope, or to hold on to hope. Most prominently in the opening track of the song, Come On In, where at the end, him and along with some gang vocals, of which I'm part of,
Mm-hmm.
the lyrics that are repeated are, "It gets better, I promise. Just hold on to hope."
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say, you don't realize how many people have said those lyrics in my room in order to make that.
I mean, that's probably a lot of people. I mean, I've heard in like all of the little choirs throughout the album, like that was a lot of people. You probably had a lot of people coming in and out of your room to like say this. It must have been a pain in the butt to make sure like there were no like background noises left in there that would have taken away from the experience if it were heard. Now, is the production job actually like kind of a co-op between you and Snide Molly, or?
No, I didn't do any of the audio production. I just provided a space where it could be recorded, and then Snide did the editing at like the post-production for the audio.
All right.
Which also that's in it. Since you brought that up, there's an interesting thing about this album is that this is a full band release from the Justin Arena project, because both Easy January and Looking Back were solo releases, and Be Nice to the Quiet Kid was in the era that he had a full band, but I think there were only like one. I think only the opening track, from what I remember, only the opening track actually had the full band production, whereas the rest of them were just solo acoustic, as to be expected with Justin Arena. But now we have a new, more solidified lineup for the band. It is Justin Arena on guitar and vocals, Molly Garrity on bass, and Snide Molly on drums and production.
Mm-hmm. Do you know if like the trumpets like something that's going to be sticking around for the Justin Arena project, or if that was just for the album kind of thing?
One thing I know is that Justin Arena is incredibly proud of how the horn section came out. That was done by Joe Folan and Andrew Collins, two members of another local band called the Sound Bandits, which is definitely a very good band. We should Ian, we should definitely cover a Sound Bandits project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely possible.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I mean, I'm pretty sure that Justin would want to have more horn sections in like on later records. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I just know that he's incredibly proud of how they came out on the Pink Room.
Mm-hmm.
And rightfully so, because they sound pretty good.
Yeah, they sound pretty good, but the thing is that with me, I feel like they were kind of underutilized. They were used in like kind of the exact same places. Like there was a point where the song was kind of kicking back into a more relaxed point, and they had the moment to like kick in those trumpets. Like they could have like kind of taken in like that section and kind of like you could have like used it to kind of amp up a song maybe at some point, maybe kind of used to introduce a song. They could have done a lot more with the trumpets, I think. I mean, because now it kind of sounds like they just took sound bites out of the album. What was the album? The American Football 1999 EP, and then just kind of like laid it into like places where it fit. Like, I feel like they could have been used a lot more and a lot more creatively, but they did come out great sounding regardless of that fact.
Yeah, true. I'm sure that there'll be more uses of the horn section on later records, and probably in different ways than what was done on the Pink Room.
Yeah.
Especially if it would be interesting, like if Justin were to make an album that like was more like had more lungses, like songs like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can imagine having like having that horn section on songs like that, like could definitely even like amp up more that like party vibe.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
As a fun fact, that reminds me of another band that is worth mentioning. A band called the Party Band.
The Party Band?
The Party Band.
All right. I mean, what are they like? Just give us like a little bit of a rundown real quick before we jump back into Justin.
All right, so it is. Well, for one thing, it can obviously be described as a party. It like the party band is like this, like it's nearly an orchestra. It's like 20 people in this band, and like but it's not like orchestral music. It's like it's like funky dance tunes with like a bunch of horns and drums, and it's Andrew Collins, one of the members of the Sound Bandits, is part of the Party Band.
Oh, wait, so it's kind of a local band.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't know about that. It sounded like the name kind of made it sound like there was an actual, like, not really actual is a bad way to say it, but like a band that has a record label they've signed to and like are producing music. But I mean,
no, their Party Band is local.
All right, interesting. I mean, it's like it's weird because I haven't even seen them mentioned on anything. They're just kind of like no shows they've really done that came up in my like radar. Because I mean, I've seen the Sound Bandits a few times, but never actually got to go see them. That's the thing.
You definitely should. The Sound Bandits are great live.
I'll have to see if I can like book the Sound Bandits for like another show, which we have confirmed is actually happening April 21st. So, I mean, I think we've got about 5 to 8 bands going. So we have to end up cutting a few though, but we're looking at like a pretty saucy lineup. We got, I think the Caps are going. We have, off the top of my head, I can remember Bob Tracy said he wanted to do it, and there's a couple other people. It's escaped me entirely, but my brother should be getting the event page up for that soon.
Fantastic news.
Yeah. Just to jump back into Justin Arena's album, I like a lot of it, but I want to kind of talk a little bit about one negative feeling I had about it. So, the album sounded great for a lot of parts, but I feel like there could have been some parts where they kind of dialed back on the production itself. Like in some tracks, like Come On In, where he has this long droney, I think it was Come On In, where he has a long droney. No. It was, I think it was like, shit. There was like one song in particular where he carries one note with his voice for a long time.
Illuminated?
But I mean, it's not like Illuminated. Illuminated, actually, I think I liked for its production. I believe. Let me look at my notes here. But I mean, the way he carried the note and the way that the production took that note and kind of stretched it out, added a lot of reverb and a lot of delay to it. It took me out of the experience a bit. Whereas with the production on, say, Solemn Circle, with the way it sounded, it made the track itself surrounding the vocals sound really nice. It kind of like felt like he was trying to implement. It felt like Snide, Molly, and Justin were trying to implement the stylings of like shoegaze, dream pop into like a folk record, but they kind of only went halfway on some of these songs, or like kind of only added in spots where it's like, yes, we will just try and put a fancy bell and whistle here. And I feel it kind of takes away from the experience because it's something you don't expect, which is nice, but it's something that doesn't sit well with me personally. Like, other than that, though, Snide's production on this album was really nice. Like, especially in one of my favorites, Solemn Circle, it sounded like I've talked to Snide and I told like Justin, I told Snide that the way that he made this track sound was really nice. It kind of sounded like it was recorded for a little bit on like a cassette player, and it had like all the really grimy white noise that you heard, and then the way the white noise kind of intermingled with like the phone message at the very end of that song, it kind of fed into that sense. And I felt like it would have been really cool if we heard the full white noise going through Solemn Circle to keep that kind of tone going. But I understand that that's just kind of like, they gotta like choose what they gotta choose, and for them they felt like Solemn Circle sounded better if they kind of bookended it with the white noise instead.
You know, apparently from what I heard, the white noise is actually, or at least what it's intended to sound like. I can't remember if it was just a recording of this or it was supposed to sound like this, but it's supposed to sound like a rainstorm outside.
Interesting.
Apparently that's the whole idea with what that is.
I mean, it didn't really hit that it was like a rainstorm, but I can kind of see what they're going for now. But again, I actually love like the aesthetic of like kind of some white noise. I enjoy my 80s synth pop and synth wave a lot, especially like vaporwave that can match an 80s aesthetic, which means like getting that grimy white noise in there in the background and kind of making it a little bit lo-fi, cutting out the edges. It's and I feel like if Justin were to implement that in one of his songs, I'd be kind of interested in it. If he like took the aspect of it being a DIY song, kind of toned down the production intentionally, but still kind of kept it in a very like professional style, it would sound really interesting. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent there, but you get my point, right?
Yeah. although Justin's been a lo-fi like solo acoustic singer for just about all of his career, so it makes sense that he would want to release something that is as produced as this.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, like his last albums have had that very, very minimalist production sound to them, whereas this is where they kind of tried to take it and shine it up to bring it up to like the standard that Ed Sheeran plays at, that Jack Johnson plays at, but kind of keep his Justin Arena spirit and the project that he wants to push forward in life.
Yeah.
And I kind of hope that they can maybe like releases an EP or two that like goes back to that style if he ever decides to like just toy with it for a little bit more. Because I mean, I enjoy that a lot. That's something that I personally would enjoy. Oh, so back on the production too. When you listen to "Come On In," did you kind of hear like intermittent white noise throughout the song, kind of in the background? It was white noise, no white noise, white noise, no white noise.
I don't quite remember that.
Because I mean, I remember listening to it. I have like hi-fi headphones. They like very entry level, but they're okay and like picking up some stuff.
Okay, I know what you mean now.
Yeah, it was. I was like, what is going on here? And I mean, it kind of took me out of it. If the white noise was consistent throughout the track, it would kind of keep me in a mental stage of listening to Justin playing in a backyard show at my house. But now it kind of like it's dipping between perfect production and okay, lo-fi, perfect lo-fi, perfect lo-fi. And it took away a little bit of my enjoyment of the track. But it was still a good track in its own to kind of enjoy. Just kind of have fun with it.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I'll have fun with it as much as like it kind of is as a depressing song. Let's see.
Although, Come On In, while it does sound depressing, it is more hopeful than some of the other songs on the album. Like, although I think all the songs do kind of have a bit of that, being hopeful despite like things being horrible.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Like,
so except maybe for like Disappoint.
Yeah, Disappoint was one of the soul crushing songs, but it still had like its. I mean with the full band in on Disappoint, it kind of didn't sound as like depressing as it did, but that's taking out the idea of like these vocals and these lyrics that they're putting down are pretty depressing.
True.
But I mean,
and an interesting thing about Disappoint is that there's a verse sung by the bassist Molly Garrity. That's also very good.
Yeah, and it's actually on that track. I kind of like the fact that Molly and Justin are singing these verses. Like it kind of, instead of just sounding like a person crooning to the audience, like "Help me with my problems," it's more like more people are in there talking about their problems and kind of trying to involve the people listening and like, hey, come in with your problems and we can discuss them. Like, let's have this discussion and be a family kind of sort of thing. Because he reflects this a lot, actually, the feeling of family throughout his album, especially on like tracks like These Boots Are Getting Heavy and let's see, well, Lungs, of course, where he has the chorus of people chiming in for these tracks.
Yeah, the gang vocals.
Yeah, is that what you guys call it in production? Like the gang vocals?
Well, that's what like me, Justin, and all of us. That's what we've been calling them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if like I know that that's what they're called, but I'm pretty sure we're specifically calling them that because at one point saying gang was just like a joke among all of us.
That's awesome.
Like you know that one song, gang, 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 gang.
Not necessarily.
Gang by Max P.
Okay.
I don't fuck with you if you don't gang bang. Such a ridiculous thing.
That is interesting. I mean, I'll give it that. But I can see what you guys are getting at, and it was kind of neat to see like that kind of feeling of this is my family. These are the people that have really helped me out throughout the last like year, and these are people that I'm glad to be around. And if I had to rate it solely on that kind of like atmosphere there, I would rate this out of 10 I'm going to drink this and regret the fact that I was a shut-in loser in my high school years out of 10. I don't know. It's got that very like kind of I feel like I'm part of this gang. That I am part of this family, even though it's kind of like a small disconnect. Like I don't hang out with them that much, but I know these people.
Yeah.
And then I mean, with songs like, I think New Safe Place with its more upbeat tone kind of like calls into that very upbeat familial feeling too.
Yeah. And the thing about the Pink Room for any of you listening, keep in mind that there are songs on Easy January that are redone and put on the Pink Room. Down the Line was on Easy January, New Safe Place, and Illuminated were also on Easy January, whereas everything else is brand new for this album.
And a lot of the brand new stuff that came to the table was pretty good. I think the only song that I had some problems with were Come On In, How to Draw Anything, and I think that was it, because I mean everything else was good, from songs like Justin Arna, which is like I think like 8 or 9 minute ballad where
7:25 is the
7:25.
timestamp on that.
But yeah, so like Amanda McCarthy and Molly are featured on there, like kind of singing this song about how Judson, and the way that it's spelled is like.
Just so you know, it's every time that the name of the song shows up on anything, like on any any track listing, like on any different platform, on any like print, on anything, it's always spelled differently.
Yeah, I noticed as I was looking at the Bandcamp to get more information. I was like, okay, why is it spelled differently here?
Yeah, like the title of the song is just Justin Arena spelled wrong.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. I think that it could cause some weirdness if you're going between the different platforms, but I mean that really shouldn't be a problem for anyone, because people usually like stick with whatever platform they're listening on.
Yeah.
But anywho, so if you had to actually rate this album out of 10, what would you give it a rating of?
Oh shit.
Like, putting aside the fact that you worked hard on it and you put all this time in, and the fact that Justin is a friend, like, if you could put all that aside and say it, like, what would your rating be?
I mean, probably like an 8 or a 9. I do very much enjoy this album. I do enjoy what was done. I appreciate being able to hear Justin Arena on this cleaner production. You know, since I've already heard what he's done with the lo-fi production, and now I'm able to hear what he can do with cleaner production and with the full band. And also, there are some interesting things that you might not even have caught on to that are pretty interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Out of curiosity, did you notice anything weird about the percussion on Heart?
Percussion on Heart. I really didn't notice anything weird about the percussion on Heart. Let me just double check my notes though. I mean, I remember that like the instrumental itself sounded pretty crisp, but also fluid and really flows well with like the album itself. Like, I don't think there was anything notable about the percussions I got in my notes though. What was interesting?
So you didn't notice that the percussion on Heart was entirely Game Boy sounds?
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
That's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, that's a neat little touch up. That was Snide's doing?
Yes.
All right, Snide, I'm really proud of you, Snide, if you ever listen to this, because that is something cool and something very you to mix in there. Like,
also, another cool thing is if you listen to the very end of Boots, like that's just an abbreviation. The whole title is These Boots Are Getting Heavy. These boots are getting heavy, but I'm getting used to walking with the weight. That's the entire title, so we're just gonna shorten that to Boots. So at the end of Boots, you hear something kind of go in, like you almost hear like a reverse sound that cuts off immediately at the end. And it's actually going right into the beginning of Come On In. So the album can be played smoothly on an endless loop.
okay, all right, that's pretty cool. I mean, I like it when bands do that. Like, I think who did it? Well, King Gizzard did that with Nonagon Infinity, which actually I tortured my girlfriend with on a car ride home. I mean, I hope she at least liked it, but who knows?
Watsky did it on his latest record, Times Infinity.
That's pretty funny. 2 albums with like the word infinity that they like try to loop themselves back into each other. It's like a little tired motif we can kind of still enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah. But going on like the idea of ratings, personally, I would give this album, taking away all my attachments and kind of setting it aside and reviewing it professionally, I'd say it was a 7.8. Like, because I mean, some of the stuff with production I didn't like, but there were parts where the production was like really cool, like when they added the delay and reverb effects to some instruments throughout the album. I can't name off the top of my head for the life of me, but I know that when I heard those, I was like, this is really neat. This is like something I would like to hear more of. Hear more of the distortion on these instruments, because I mean, it takes it away from just being like kind of a melancholic but still kind of hopeful folk album, and kind of takes it into a more dreamy direction where I feel like Justin's new sound would really sit well. Like if he kind of ventured into shoegaze a tiny bit and kind of added the dream poppy production of Slow Dive, but maybe on like kind of a toned back scale, so he was still like doing the folk music he still liked. The instrumentation in parts reminded me a little bit of like both the American Football self-titled album and Jack Johnson's In Between Dreams, which is like a folk album that I actually could find a lot of enjoyment of. It's something from my childhood and whatnot. And I like that when in some songs where Justin kind of fudged higher notes using vibrato, but some songs, some points where he's holding high notes, it doesn't sound as good, because I mean, I feel like Justin is good in like the lower register, but in the higher register he doesn't sound that well. Like I feel like if he used vibrato more to like kind of fudge it, it would kind of sound a lot better. I mean, that's my opinion, Justin. So if you ever have an issue with it, I will discuss it with you, whatever. But again, Molly's production was well done, but the few hiccups kind of took away my enjoyment. And I don't traditionally like folk, but I did enjoy my time with this. I don't think like a 7.8 says like it's a bad album on like a scale of like, oh, anything below an 8's bad. Like 7's like more like, I enjoyed it, but there were some flaws that didn't sit well with me. But overall, it was still something I would go back to again, probably, if given the chance to, as I have gone back to it multiple times. I listened to it back when it was originally released. I didn't like it because it was such a tonal departure from like what I'm used to. But going back to it, I felt that it was much better than the way I was viewing it back then.
Right.
But I mean, I think that this album, very good. I would go back to it a few more times. There's a few hiccups along the way that I think could be dealt with. I might just be completely just off my rocker with what I'm saying. But I have a firm belief that there's room for improvement, but it was good either way.
Yeah, true. And I'm sure that like, you know, on future releases, we'll hear. We'll definitely on future releases hear new kinds of experimentation musically, and honestly, with Justin, who knows what the next direction is gonna be. It'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah, he's kind of a nut job, so I mean, he could easily just jump from like one genre to the next if he decided. But I mean, personally, I kind of hope that he does take what I say to heart about the shoegaze comment, because that's something that in Snide's production I really enjoyed. Something like the distortion of the instruments. If we could see more of that, see some of that live, I would definitely enjoy that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Again, that would be just something that'd be like up to Justin and where he feels like he should take it next.
Right.
Yeah. And And I think with that, I think that concludes our discussion. Unless you'd like to make a final statement about Justin Arena Project's The Pink Room.
I think the only thing that we really haven't touched on is like the fact that there seems to be only one major inside joke that has come from this album.
Really?
And that, yeah, one like reference that like me and Justin and others have repeated off this album, and that is if. Yeah. Towards the end of Heart, like when he's doing the chorus, at one point he just screams if. Like it's I'm awake and my heart is beating. If I'm a rocket. You through the ceiling by now.
I honestly didn't notice that. I mean, it's like I'm listening to a bunch of different stuff, but I don't feel like it's worth mentioning it here right now. But I mean, some of these things just end up escaping me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But it's pretty awesome that there's at least an in-joke coming out of that, because I mean, I think every album needs to have some sort of little in-joke for the local music scene.
Yeah, somewhere.
Definitely. Because I mean, if my brother's solo acts without sight, really, it kind of suffers from the fact that it doesn't have that kind of in-joke with the whole music community in the area. If it suddenly got that one joke that everyone could kind of have fun with, he would probably soar up into popularity a tiny bit more. But
true. Although I think without sight, once we get some without sight releases, then I have a feeling that I have a feeling he'll do just fine. I think what he has going for him is pretty great. I am a fan of his music, and once it's actually released and I can listen to it, then absolutely fantastic. That is great news, and I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. Actually, I think my brother was even talking about wanting to try and get on this podcast. So I mean, I guess if we have room for a guest, we should get him on and get him to talk. Because I mean, with his education and being a music major, it'd be a nice fresh voice to hear. So if this goes, longer than an episode, we should definitely bring him on.
Yeah, that'll certainly be wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So, if you want, do you want to talk a bit about some music news?
Shit, I'm not even entirely sure what music news there is.
I mean, I just looked online and it looks like Chuck Berry died a few hours ago.
Oh yeah.
And
that's.
I'm trying to remember. What was Chuck Berry's I know he had some important songs, but for the life of me, it's escaping me entirely.
Johnny Be Good.
Johnny Be Good, right? And that was a big plot point back in the Back to the Future movies, alternate retold history,
Yeah.
It's I feel bad I didn't really pay attention to Chuck Berry, but it's for the last I don't know 3 years I was stuck in metal. Years before that it was Guitar Hero core and anime openings. Hopefully I can become a little bit more well versed and really appreciate these musicians as they're passing, because I mean it's a shame to kind of not appreciate them while they're alive.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good opportunity to kind of check out his stuff, though. I mean,
true.
Right now, everyone's gonna be talking about his music. Might as well try and get in on the conversation and kind of see what Chuck Berry had to put on stage. And apparently, he had an album that was coming up soon called Chuck, just Chuck, and it was recorded last year, so everything's all ready to go. But I think he's having a release sometime very soon.
When was his last album released?
His last album came out in 1979, so I mean it was probably oh yeah, it's 38 years since he had released another album, and it looks like we're getting on to all of the getting on to just stuff where he's getting back to his roots, maybe, or maybe he's bringing back the old rock and roll that we haven't heard in how many years has it been since there's been like a really popular just rock and roll band or artist?
Um, shit.
I don't think rock has barely been that present in the modern day, like traditional rock and roll, since like the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. I mean, there's always been like AC/DC, and I've always been kind of hard rock, keeping it alive.
Yeah.
There's been like the modern rock bands, but I feel like now that Chuck Berry's back on my radar, I might check out his album when it releases later this year, because I mean, I'm always looking for something new and interesting sounding, but it's always kind of nice to go back and listen to the oldies, see if there's anything interesting there.
Yeah, true.
I mean, there's definitely something interesting there with Chuck Berry being such a legend as he is.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I have no true knowledge of Chuck Berry, but I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm definitely looking forward to broadening my music horizons a tiny bit. And it's a shame that he had to die, but I mean, not that he had to, but it's a shame that he died. And I'm really hoping that in the next few weeks, people can immortalize him in the same way that they immortalized David Bowie when he passed last year.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that man, he's kind of a rock and roll legend. Like, watching him die silently would just be breaking my heart a little bit.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure that his label will like release the music that he made, like on that out on Chuck. I'm sure that the record label will release that posthumously.
Yeah, but they'll probably get it out like really quickly. I mean, like, if they don't get it out quickly, like, they kind of miss out on like the whole Chuck Berry kind of taking up the headlines of news. Thankfully,
And, like it would be good to like hear what he was making at that time, and like we'll be able to understand what we'll be able to understand Chuck Berry from that standpoint from last year, and we'll listen to like his last project, and I feel like that'll obviously just be something important to hear for any Chuck Berry fans, and it'll be something interesting for anyone who isn't particularly a fan of Chuck Berry but understands that he's as much of a legend as he is. Because that's kind of what happened with me and David Bowie, because I was never particularly interested in David Bowie's music. Like, I never really looked into it, but what I did listen to was Black Star.
yeah, same here. And when I listened to Black Star and like found out about his passing, I was like, holy crap. And kind of analyzing like the kind of send off he was sending us lyrically with the title track and other tracks on Black Star, I could see like he desired to make death an art, as said by the Needle Drop on his video covering Black Star.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if Chuck Berry's album will actually kind of follow that same way of sending himself off. But I hope just not in a way that's kind of like almost jerking himself off, like he's gonna go away in a tasteful way. Because it's also like, before he died, it was alluded that this would be his last album, which I guess it is. So we're gonna see some sort of send-off motif on that album.
Yeah.
We won't have some of like the send-off impact that David Bowie had with Black Star, but I think that there will be a strong impact for people who are fans or just like rock and roll casually and are familiar with some of his songs from like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, all we gotta do now is just kind of wait for it all to come out.
Yeah, and like I guess in the meantime we can check out like whatever the album was that had Johnny B. Good on it. You know, just check out like the early stuff that made him into the legend that he is.
Really, yeah, we definitely should be doing that. Like, or even just check out compilation albums too to try and find one that you really enjoy.
And I'm sure that Chuck Berry has plenty of those.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's definitely a good way to like introduce yourself to an artist.
Definitely, like, I mean, if it weren't for like some compilation albums, I bet people wouldn't have the taste they have today. Like,
yeah, like it's a compilation album that got me into Elvis Costello.
Really?
Yeah, the very best of Elvis Costello and the Attractions.
You know, I'm honestly not a little bit familiar with Elvis Costello. Let's see.
He's another one of those singers with a weird sounding voice that I like.
Alright, neat. And alright, do you think we're cool to move on to the next news story a bit?
Yeah, certainly.
So actually, from what I found out that I've looked at Pitchfork, and there's a statement that they're going to somehow celebrate the 20th anniversary of Radiohead's OK Computer next week. Radiohead's OK Computer getting like, I didn't realize it was going to be 20 years. And I recently listened to it back in like early January, end of December, and I was like, wow, why have I been missing out on this album? Like, I ended up listening to it just in time to actually kind of get something out of it before the anniversary came along, and I've been kind of enchanted by it. Like, it's a pretty album. It got some interesting little production to it, and I don't know, it kind of speaks to the kind of depressed anxiety of people my age, even in an age where, well, even in like the different contexts that our lives have compared to the context of like the late 90s, like there still is that anxiety that Tom York was kind of crooning on about throughout the record, that the paranoia of trying to fit in. Like, the album itself probably not as well loved by the people who are in the patrician communities that love Kid A more than it, but they will come to kind of recognize the album and its importance in art rock and alternative rock as kind of setting a certain foundation for some bands. I mean, there's probably a couple of bands who've been like inspired a bit by Radiohead's works from like Coldplay when they copied straight out of Radiohead's book to I really can't think of any other artists necessarily, but there got to be some out there that are carrying from Radiohead's like legacy from then on.
I mean, I know that a lot of people say that like a lot of people like compare Radiohead and Muse.
Yeah. So I could see like Muse being one of those bands that like drew inspiration. Like, I feel like with some of their interests, they're more, I think, would they be considered progressive music? Like, in the sense that their music is kind of out there, experimental.
I'm not sure. I don't think they're like all that experimental from what I know, but I'm not entirely sure.
But I mean, like, I think the inspiration's still there. Like, even if it's not like from the experimental point, it's from like the kind of the aesthetic. Because OK Computer had a lot of aesthetic of the electronic age. It had, as you can tell from like the name, but it's got a lot of inspiration in the technological age, from like the name down to Paranoid Android in the name as well, down to there's this one song on there that I can't remember off the top of my head the name of it, but it was a computerized voice that we heard in Paranoid Android listing off all of these anxieties, all of these things to do to be a normal human. And it kind of carried forth this kind of the static, almost restricted, but kind of powerful and like trying to break out feeling that was kind of permeated inside the album. And I think Tom York really struck gold when he wrote this album, and I feel like I'm just droning on at this point.
It's okay.
And anyway, it's gonna be cool to see like an anniversary, like re-release sometime this year probably. I mean, I ended up seeing it at a Newberry Comics last week, but well, not last week. It was probably like a few months ago when I went there, and I was like, I really should pick this up, but I can't afford it. But maybe while I get like some sort of neat vinyl re-release on Record Store Day. I think that's next month, right? Or is that May? Anywho, that's is there any other news that we can check out today? Let's see.
I'm not sure.
Let's see. I don't think there's a couple of newer albums, like apparently Depeche Mode released an album recently. I thought it was just some sort of like deluxe edition of an album, but I guess they dropped something really new. So I guess I'll have to end up checking that out at some point. Because, I mean, Depeche Mode is, am I even pronouncing that right?
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Depeche Mode.
Depeche Mode. Alright, so Depeche Mode, they were an inspiration for one of my favorite bands, Dark Tranquillity. And apparently their kind of rocky synthy music kind of paved the way for like Dark Tranquillity and a couple other bands who kind of followed in their wake of being melodic death, but with that synthy gothic backing sound to it, or just a synthy sound in general. So I think I'll have to end up checking that out, but it doesn't seem like there's really anything else interesting in the realm of releases. I may be eating my own words next week on recording day, but I mean, for right now.
I know that like my second favorite musician ever is apparently like putting a lot of her focus onto her next album that will be a follow-up to Volnicura, which is already like a fantastic record that was praised quite a bit, especially after like her last 3 albums weren't as popular as the 4 before those.
Alright, that's pretty awesome.
And it's gonna be a collaboration with the same producer on Volnicura, but apparently it's gonna be in like a completely different way. And she's finally going to be releasing the VR music videos that she hasn't yet but made for Volnicura. So that'll be a wonderful thing.
Do you have like a VR headset available somehow?
I don't, but on YouTube, if a video's in VR, I like what I did. One of her music videos from Volnicura for the song Stone Milker is a VR video, and the thing is on YouTube, like the phone just functions like a VR, so on the screen it'll just show like a certain area, you move the phone around and you can look around. It was just one night, it was just like my whole room was pitch black and I just watched the video and I stood and I just like rotated myself and like was pretty much just like I was taken to the world of Stone Milker.
Alright, that's pretty neat. I think I have like some kind of a VR headset, so if you want, we can kind of see if it will work with your phone and kind of give you that neat experience with those music videos when they finally end up coming out. It would take some adjusting, but we could end up getting it to work probably.
I'm sure we can figure it out.
Yeah, definitely.
That I'm sure that we can find a way just to get the videos to like watch the videos on your headset in some way. Anyway. Yeah,
bro. It's more like you put your. It's not like a fancy headset like a Oculus Rift or something like that. It's something where you kind of like the Gear VR. You're familiar with that?
Not by name.
All right. Well, anyway, the Samsung Gear VR is like a headset that you clip your phone into.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So it's something like that where you put your phone in and we'd see like if it works there, like. Because I mean, it's kind of this specific headset's kind of like something I got for Christmas. It's not super high end, but it's interesting.
Right.
And it's worked with like a few Google VR store apps, but I haven't seen much in the way of what it does other than that. I mean, we'll definitely try it out with that, see if like we can get you to enjoy some of Bjork's VR music videos, which is actually really cool in general.
Yeah, true.
I feel like
one of the videos is gonna be for the song "Not Get," which is pretty cool, and another one is gonna be for the song "Quicksand," which is another one of my favorites of Volnakira. I really like Volnakira.
You do, don't you? You like Volnakira, don't you, Cameron? Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit, probably.
It's so good, and it's wicked sad.
You like it even though it's sad.
It's such a. I
get it. I understand. It can be beautiful how people like orchestrate their sadness into different music, and
yeah.
Like, I mean, Dark Tranquillity, their lyrics are often extremely melodramatic, and their composition alongside it can be really melodramatic too, depending on the song.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you actually have a little bit of crossover there. So, I mean, next week, if I end up listening to enough Dark Tranquillity to like justify talking about them, I'll definitely give you a little bit more of a rundown there.
All right.
But anywho, I think that will end up concluding our show today, unless you'd like to talk about some more stuff. Anything in particular?
Well, there was a person who messaged me like when you made the post about the podcast, asking if we would be able to review their latest record for next week. So, should I say what like the album is and who it's by and everything?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Well, what I hope can happen is that we'll be able to review The Gates of Heaven by Fordham Road next week.
The Gates of Heaven by Fordham Road. Oh, you told me about this one a few weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't given this a fair listen, but now that, I mean, it's on our radar, I'd definitely be up for doing this.
Yeah.
See, and I'm thinking, actually, for next week...
I mean, you like progressive rock, right?
Yeah, I like progressive rock. I mean, I haven't listened to enough of it to, like, say I'd be a progressive rock, like, fan, but I enjoy, like, what bands do. Like, I've listened to a little bit of Opeth's, like, post-black metal days where they decided that they were going to go into a progressive rock, like, perspective, and it was interesting. I would listen to more of it.
Right.
Like, and, you know, I feel bad that I haven't gotten back to, like, listening to Gates of Heaven, but I'll definitely have to, like, give it a listen to in the next week.
Yeah.
Oh, and while we're talking, I'd like to say, why don't we try and get Justin and maybe Snide in next week to see, like, if they want to review our review, what we thought about their album and whatnot.
Yeah, we can have them talk about what we said. Yeah.
Yeah, see, like,
we'll see how that can happen.
If they have a different opinion on some of what we said, maybe we'll be able to, like, hear some deets about whatever their upcoming tour they have planned. But yeah, until then, I think we'll just work on it in the background.
Yeah.
So, actually, for the people who are patient enough to still listen it, we're having in the background playing Solstice by Peter Bark on Bandcamp. And we also had 2814's album in all Japanese text that I can't read for the life of me, but I think it's Birth of a New Dawn or something like that. But I will put the links to those in the description. The links to all of our content, from Cam's music to just my Bandcamp wish list, are available right in front of our faces. Our Twitter handles are right in front of your faces. And this is Ian, not a dad. And that's Cameron over there, an actual musician.
I'm Cameron, Z the Stranger.
I apologize for the very low quality of the stream, but I mean, we're hoping to get it improved. Until next time.
This is the first episode. It'll get better as it goes along.
Yeah, I hope so. But until next time, take care of yourselves. Have a good time.
Goodbye.